Also on the policy front, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Army Corps of Engineers recently proposed an expansion of their authority over waters of the United States. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Russell Nemitz has more on what this could mean for ranchers across the country.
For more than 40 years, the issue of what waters fell under federal authority hinged on whether they were navigable or near an adjacent wetland. Under a new proposed expansion, essentially all waters in the country would be subject to regulation by the EPA and Army Corps of Engineers, regardless of size or continuity of flow.
When you start looking at this proposed rule and truly what it means for agriculture, you really have to look at those playa lakes, the stock tanks, the ditches that at some points of the year might actually have water standing in them or running through them. Essentially, the federal government is treating those like a river or a tributary that actually runs into a larger body of water like the ocean.
And of course, that has huge implications for a land-based activity like cattle ranching. We deal with the land every day with a lot of features that could now be considered waters of the United States. And for everyday activities like cattle ranching, for applying weed management or weed control on pasture lands, those could now be permitted activities that you have to ask the federal government for permission to conduct.
EPA's efforts to clarify the meaning of waters of the United States may actually have the opposite effect. Now, almost all activities on open land will touch a water of the United States under the expanded definition. This could require cattlemen to obtain costly and burdensome permits to take care of everyday chores like moving cattle across a wet pasture or cleaning a dugout.
If it's a rainy season, which we haven't had enough of lately, but there's areas in the pasture that just stand water that can't really call them a lake or a river or anything else. They're just kind of a low spots, and there's a lot of them. So if traveling and moving cattle from one pasture to the next or going to the pens, I mean, there's possibilities that areas like that could be impacted, and we would be waiting in line for some permit to be able to do just normal ranch activities, and we just can't have that kind of disruption in our businesses.
Well, I've got a lot of dry tributaries in my area that traditionally would not fall within navigable waters under any of their definitions. Got a lot of arroyos that run across us, and as near as I can understand from the language they used, all of those things would suddenly become waters of the U.S., subject to all the permit restrictions and other activity restrictions.
This proposed rule could hinder the ability of ranchers to manage their land, which is why NCBA is working hard on Capitol Hill to help lawmakers understand the potential for long-term damage to the beef industry.
NCBA is going to put a lot of efforts forward, and I know our membership is committed to this too, so you'll have the national pressure and then you'll have the grassroots from throughout the country pushing back against the EPA to say you don't have jurisdiction over every single water or area that could actually contain water moving forward, as your proposal is intending to do.
We really need cattle producers to come out in droves to comment on this rule and talk about the things that they do on their property every day that could cause soil to touch a water, or maybe not even a water. Maybe it's a dry stream bed that might be considered a water of the United States. We need personal stories from cattle producers, as well as talking to their elected officials, whether that's at the local, state, county level, and especially their federal elected officials, their senators and their representatives. Ask them and demand that they do something to stop the EPA and stop this massive land grab and overreach.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., I'm Russell Nemitz for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
The proposal will be open for public comment until July 21st, and NCBA will submit comments on behalf of its members. Go to beefusa.org to find out more about how to contact the EPA and let them know your feelings about this proposal.